Welcome to today's Explainer. We're about to go on a pretty wild ride unpacking digital threats. We're going all the way from the sheer psychological terror of online abuse right up to the very real, very severe legal consequences. The internet can be a seriously dark place sometimes, but as you'll see, the law is catching up fast.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll define the digital threat. Then look at the real human cost. After that, we're diving into the legal framework, how we actually catch cybercriminals, and finally, a massive true crime payoff with the TalkTalk hacker case study. All right, part 1, defining the digital threat and understanding the weapons being used against victims.
So, clinically speaking, cyber harassment is the repeated use of digital communication to threaten, intimidate, or harm someone. But what's absolutely crucial to grasp here is how the Crown Prosecution Service, or CPS, views this. They state that these messages, whether they're abusive, threatening, or just flat-out false, create a devastating mix of criminal and psychological abuse. We're not just talking about words on a screen here. This is literally weaponized communication.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the contrast between cyber harassment and cyber stalking. We've got to clear up this common misconception. While harassment can be general abuse thrown at a broad audience, stalking is a whole different beast. It's incredibly targeted, it's persistent, and it's focused on a specific victim. It's exactly that unavoidable, relentless monitoring that generates such profound, paralyzing fear.
And unfortunately, it gets even darker, especially when we're talking about vulnerable people and kids. Online grooming is this terrifyingly methodical, predatory process. Attackers don't just strike at random. They actually hunt through platforms by location or interests. Step 1, they collect personal info. Step 2, they build emotional trust. And then Step 3, they exploit the victim. It is a highly calculated manipulation of human psychology.
Which brings us to part 2, the real human cost, way beyond the screen.
Victims of this kind of harassment and stalking, they're left feeling constantly monitored and just utterly powerless. We're talking intense anxiety, depression, and a total shattering of self-confidence. But it absolutely spills offline too. Tactics like virtual mobbing, where a whole group coordinates an attack, or creating fake identities to ruin someone's reputation, these have catastrophic real-world impacts. They can completely isolate someone socially and, frankly, destroy their entire career.
So how do we fight back? Part 3, the legal framework, basically society's shield.
Prosecutors actually have a pretty robust toolkit of legislation to go after these guys in the UK. You've got the Malicious Communications Act of 1988, which covers indecent or threatening messages. Then there's the Communications Act 2003 for grossly offensive messages on public networks, plus the Sexual Offenses Act 2003 addressing grooming. The big takeaway for us here, the justice system treats a digital threat with the exact same gravity as someone threatening you in physical space.
The really crucial piece of the puzzle is how the Crown Prosecution Service actually handles this. They have to make a very clear distinction. Prosecutors have to differentiate between a message that's merely grossly offensive and one that is a legitimate, credible threat of violence or targeted stalking. When a troll crosses that line into a credible threat, while CPS guidelines dictate going after them with a highly robust prosecution.
Okay, part 4. This is the fun detective part, catching cybercriminals through digital forensics.
How do authorities actually catch people hiding behind screens? They follow the digital footprints. And it's not just checking a laptop or a mobile phone. Get this, even a connected gaming console sitting in a living room or data pulled straight from internet service providers can be the absolute key to cracking a complex case. Basically, every single digital move leaves a trace.
But what happens when a hacker tries to hide across the globe? Well, look at the case of R versus Shepard and Whittle. The attacker hosted his server all the way in California, probably thinking, no way the UK law can touch me. But the court used what's called the substantial measure principle. Because a substantial measure of the crime's impact hit hard in England and Wales, the courts had full jurisdiction. Combine that with joint investigation teams sharing intel across borders, and attackers can and will be prosecuted, no matter where their servers are stashed.
Let's see all this in action. Part 5, our case study on the infamous TalkTalk hacker.
£77 million. Just let that massive number sink in for a second. That was the devastating total cost to the telecom company TalkTalk back in October 2015. A 22-year-old named Daniel Kelly and a few other hackers used a trick called SQL injection to breach TalkTalk servers. They grabbed the personal details of over 157,000 customers and then turned around and demanded hundreds of thousands of pounds in Bitcoin
But Kelly didn't just wake up one day and hack a multinational corporation. His crime spree had a terrifying escalation. It actually started in 2013 when he attacked his own local college in Wales with DDoS attacks. Why? Simply because they rejected his application for a computer course. By 2015, he leveled up to hacking and blackmailing an Australian firm called For the Record, right before moving on to the whole talk shebang.
And to really grasp the pure psychological terror of cyber extortion, listen to this incredibly menacing message Kelly sent while extorting that Australian firm. He sent this to their marketing director, right alongside a picture of the director's 18-month-old son. It was a vicious, calculated threat to modify a baby's photo for sexual purposes just to squeeze ransom money out of a company.
So let's move to the investigation and see how this builds. How does a hacker who thinks he's basically a ghost actually get caught? Kelly was using the Tor network, disguising his IP and selling data on a dark website. But meticulous digital forensics completely tore down his little cloak of anonymity. Investigators dug up his hidden chat logs, followed his Bitcoin trail, and found thousands of stolen credit cards and SQL scanning tools right on his devices. The evidence was so bulletproof he had to plead guilty to 11 offenses, landing him 4 years in youth detention.
Which brings us to the end of today's explainer and leaves us with something pretty important to chew on. We've seen how this kind of digital abuse wrecks lives and how evolving laws and top-tier digital forensics are relentlessly hunting down these anonymous attackers across the globe. So I'll leave you with this, knowing that literally every click, every message, and every server log creates a permanent record. Are you fully aware of the digital footprint you're leaving behind today? Definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.